You realize if a Star Wars fan did that during the prequel trilogy, they never would have seen The Force Awakens? Ow! Sometimes when I do that clap, it really hurts. What's better, giving up on something you love because it's... Oh, yeah. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Ninja Steel episode review. This might be spoiling things just a little bit, but I started reviewing Power Rangers to tell people what's so good about this show, to tell people why a grown man like me still likes watching it and loves the franchise. But some weeks, I just can't do that. I have grown to accept that the other side of the coin in this gig is making clear the ways in which I think Power Rangers can improve. And boy, did this episode leave a lot of room for improvement. Listen, I was kinda sorta planning to let Kaizoku take a turn in the reviewer's chair this week, since this episode focuses on Redbot. But after watching the episode, we talked about it, and this episode doesn't deserve a special occasion like Kaizoku doing a review. Besides, I'm far better equipped to rip this episode the new one it so richly deserves. With that lovely bit of setup aside, let's take a look at the 17th episode of Ninja Steel, The Adventures of Redbot. As Levi practices in the base, Redbot is writing a post on his Tumblr. Seriously, it's never referred to directly as a Tumblr, but the format and styling of it are clear. He's writing about the Rangers' fight with Trapsaw, but he changes the story so that the Rangers somehow forgot their blasters, and he flies in to save the day. Levi walks up behind Redbot and heard him narrating what he was typing. He says, "That's not how that goes," and recounts how the Rangers used Adobe Premiere Lightning to finish off Trapsaw, remember? Redbot says he was just embellishing a little to make the story more interesting, and himself look better as it turns out. And Levi gives us the moral of the day. Not even 3 minutes into the episode, lying can get you into trouble. Mick's moral of the day senses were tingling, so he pops in. Okay, actually, he says there's a strange man outside asking for Redbot the blogger. Mick brings Redbot out, telling the students he's a robot project. The man introduces himself, Dan Willoughby. He says he's a publisher and he wants to turn Redbot's blog into a book. When he tells Redbot that he'll get famous, that catches the ear of Victor and Monty. The two insinuate themselves into the situation as Redbot's managers. Monty tries to change the contract, but Mr. Willoughby is not an idiot and says that his first offer is his final offer. Realizing that any opportunity is better than none, they accept on Redbot's behalf. On the Warrior Dome, even people like Cosmo are reading the blog on what is surely the galaxy-wide web. Galvanax returns from his 2-episode vacation and is frustrated at the amount of attention the blog is getting, and now it's becoming a book. But today's monster, Cat O'Clock, realizes that he can use this. He has the ability to zap an object and then later activate it and freeze the person that's holding it. He can do this to the books and then take the Rangers' Power Stars. The Rangers get to the school where a press conference is about to be held for Redbot's book launch. 2 problems here. Number 1, Sarah says, "There are so many people here." And then we get a wide shot that shows us there's about 15 to 20 people there. May I remind you that this is a high school in California. Every one of Sarah's classes is probably bigger than that. Number 2, I have officially had more than enough of this thing that this show does where something major happens to one of its characters, prompting a press conference, and that press conference is held on the same set they use regularly. It was silly when Coda's baseball press conference was held at a museum diner, and it's just as silly when a book launch press conference is being held at a high school. how much could it possibly cost to rent out a bookstore in New Zealand for one day? Or heck, you don't even have to do that. Just set up some bookcases and books and frame the shot so it looks like a bookstore. It's just so lazy looking to set the press conference at the place the Rangers always are, even when that doesn't make sense. Haley ties Cody up nearby, telling him he's got to stop chasing cats. Besides the fact that there's no way she'd be allowed to bring Cody inside the school, gee, this week's monster is a cat. I wonder if that's gonna be a plot point. Redbot welcomes everyone and proudly announces that everybody in the audience is getting a free copy of the book. But, oops, the books haven't arrived yet. Gee, I wonder if that's because by all indications it's been a single day and book publishing doesn't work that fast, even if they just lifted the text directly from the blog, which is something they wouldn't do because then why would you buy the book when you can read the text on the blog for free? No, it's actually because Kudabots are attacking the truck delivering the books. Mick lets the Rangers know that he's detected buzz cams in the city, and they leave to find the truck under attack. The truck with the logo of the book plastered on the side of it. The giant truck delivering maybe 100 boxes of the book to a press conference with an attendance of no more than 50. After what was actually a nice original fight scene with no fight banter, Cataclock sneaks in and zaps the books. The Rangers finish off the Kudabots, send the driver on his way, and return to the press conference. At the press conference, the books arrive and Redbot has time for one more story. Probably inspired by Mary, Levi's biggest fan, you might remember. Sitting in the front row, he tells the story of how Stone Dozer destroyed the arena, and how he shoved the Gold Ranger out of the way to save Mary from falling debris. Victor, whom Mary hilariously told to shut up earlier in the episode, gets impatient for his turn in the spotlight and says that Redbot is lying. However, in his version of the story, he and Monty shove Redbot aside after Redbot shoves the Gold Ranger aside, and they save Mary. Mary, who everybody might have wanted to remember was there, gets fed up and calls them all phonies, running off with her copy of the book. But see, my thing is, if Mary wanted the book, she reads the blog, right? And if she reads the blog, wouldn't she have already known that Redbot was lying? Yes, Redbot said that this story wasn't in the book, but still, having been saved by a Power Ranger, I think she would realize that this wasn't all on the up and up. The publisher wants to know what the meaning of this is, and the crowd starts to get mad. But then we break that interesting tension when Cataclock busts in and activates the books, freezing everyone. We see that Mary, who is reading the book despite being mad at its author for lying about it, is also frozen. However, the spell apparently has a doesn't work on robots modifier, so Redbot is not frozen. Well, not literally anyway. He does seem to be frozen in fear, because when Cataclock says that one robot won't be able to stop him, Redbot doesn't have a response to this. However, it's Cody to the rescue once again as the dog barks and scares the monster. Redbot says, "Go get him," and Cody unties himself and does so. I'm not sure if I'm more mad that Haley tied up her beloved dog with a slip knot, or impressed that they were able to teach a dog how to untie himself. Redbot unfreezes the Rangers and Mick and explains the situation to them. Brody wants to go right after the monster, but Redbot remembers that Mary had a book. He and Levi go to look for Mary while the rest of them go after the monster. Mick, apparently the only one thinking about the crowd, stays back to unfreeze them. Levi says that Mary was walking, so she couldn't have gotten far. Of course, you don't have any idea what direction she was walking, and it's entirely possible that her parents came and picked her up and drove away, so that statement doesn't actually mean anything. But it's okay because we see that Mary is actually frozen nearby, standing in the middle of a train track, because of course she is. A train track that crosses a street that apparently nobody uses. This whole scenario is just too ridiculous. While the Rangers morph to fight the monster, Levi and Redbot spot Mary on the train tracks with a train approaching. Almost expected Cataclock to jump over and start twirling his whiskers. Redbot realizes they can't get to her in time on the motorcycle, so he uses his jet boots to fly over and save her. She thanks him for saving her right after she asks him what happened. For all she knew, he got mad at her for calling him out, and he was planning to drop her from 40 stories. Back at the fight, Brody makes a fight banter pun about time, which leads Cataclock to mention his clock. Brody asks about it, because casual conversation is apparently a normal thing when you're fighting for your life, but Cataclock says he'll never give away the secret of all of his evil power. Oops, you kinda just did. The Rangers realize they need to focus their attacks there, and have I mentioned this team can be kinda brutal? Preston uses a forest attack to blind the monster, then Sarah and Calvin use claw mode on their morphers to pin his arms to the wall. Haley then lines up firing squad style and fires an arrow into the clock, destroying it. The monster survives this, but only until she and Brody team up yet again for a finishing move. His blow-up line is interesting, and I'd almost think that it implies a return. He says, "If only I had..." before blowing up. If only he'd what? Wonder if we'll get some kind of return mechanic, revival mechanic, that'll let us find out. Of course, he gets gigantified, and the Rangers call their Zords. The Kodiak Zord attacks instantly because cats and dogs, and then Brody summons the Rumble Tusk Zord? That kind of seems like a step back through time. And that's actually because it is. This episode adapts the 8th episode of Ninja, before Gold joins the team, before the Lion Fire Zord, blah 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 blah. This also explains why Levi gets into their Megazord instead of, calling his own finishing move. Explosion. Back on the Warrior Dome, Cosmo has taken inspiration from Redbot and started his very own Tumblr, Cosmo the Champion. There are a few interesting things here. The main one is one I'm sure most, if not all, Power Rangers fans know about by now. Cosmo mentions being wrapped in the finest Eltarian silks, a reference to Zordon's homeworld. However, the title is a Batman v Superman reference, and the blog post talks about Cosmo not only winning Galaxy Warriors, the show he hosts, but being visited by the Ninja Nexus Prism. However, Galvanax is kinda done with blogs and shuts this one down by breaking his own console. Nice one. The Rangers head back to the school and see that everyone is back to normal. Well, almost everyone, but trust me, we're getting to that. The publisher says he's as shocked as everyone else and will take the books back to have them recycled. Redbot walks in and apologizes to everyone for lying. But then Mary busts in right behind him and tells them to turn on the TV. Conveniently, it comes right on to the news report that Mary wanted everyone to see about how Redbot saved her from the train, complete with cell phone video taken at the scene. B-freaking-S. There was nobody else there. That's clearly just episode footage with a little bit of shakiness added to it. If anybody else was there, wouldn't they have just saved her instead? I mean, was whoever filmed this just gonna let the train hit her? So, suddenly Redbot really is a hero and all is forgiven. I'm serious, people take the books back and start asking him for autographs. Makes it easy! But hey, whatever happened to Victor and Monty? Well, it turns out Mick decided not to unfreeze them just yet and set them up under the stairs as coat racks. And nobody really seems to care about this, just using them as coat racks. It's funny to leave human beings under the effects of a monster, frozen in place, when you have the ability to fix it, and instead set them up in an undignified manner for laughs. Is this really happening? Am I seeing, I think I taste blood. Fine, I guess I have to give it stars. Or a star. Episode 17, The Adventures of Redbot. Pros, I like giving focus to side characters, a nice original fight scene, and the Rangers being brutal when it matters. Cons: a pointless, eye-rolling, boring story, confusing strange moments, and the treatment of Victor and Monty. This one is definitely not forgettable because it's memorably horrible. The Adventures of Redbot gets 1 star out of 5. I said this back when Power Rangers did this episode the first time. It was during Super Mega Force and it was called The Perfect Storm. I like giving focus to side characters. It helps demonstrate that this is a world where not every single important thing that happens to the Rangers themselves. Everyone has major important moments in their life, even robots like Redbot. So, kudos there. I'll admit that this is definitely stretching to find positives, but that fight scene where the Rangers are fighting the Kudabots to save the truck was a really nice original fight scene. I actually enjoyed it. In a show where we constantly get witty fight banter and puns, it's really nice to just get a fight scene where the Rangers go hi-ya a bunch. It's refreshing and feels far more realistic because when I'm in a fight for my life, I'm not thinking up witty fight banter. One positive that actually keeps recurring to me from time to time as I do these reviews is this is a team that acts like ninjas in all the worst ways, and I actually mean that as a compliment. This is not a team that fights honorably. They will cheat to win, they sneak around sometimes, and in cases like this, they use the most direct approach to victory, pinning the monster to the wall and friggin' executing the thing. Yes, it wasn't dead after this move, but I kind of wish this had been the finishing blow because fatality. But good lord, did I not care about the A-plot this week. The Redbot story was simple, boring, meaningless, boring, eye-rollingly cheesy, boring, cliche, boring, and boring. I did mention that it was boring, right? When I'm literally saying I no longer care out loud to the screen, that's not a good sign. Like I said, I like giving side characters focus stories, but you have to make them good focus stories. When you're taking attention away from the Rangers, who the show is about, you have to give me a good reason. This episode meant nothing, changed nothing, it's just there to not be cared about. Why was a book launch press conference held at a high school? Why did Haley tie up her beloved dog with a slip knot that would very likely come undone as soon as it tried to run away? Why would Redbot lie about a story when a person that is in the story is literally sitting right there in front of him? Why would Mary keep reading the book even after she realized Redbot was lying? Why didn't the monster's spell work on robots? Why didn't people know what Power Rangers were if Eltar is apparently a world that exists in this universe? And I mean, the Victor and Monty Stinger stuff really hit a peak this week. I've talked in the past about treating the two like cartoon characters. The other stuff has been ridiculous. But really? This? The two of them are under a spell that you have the ability to fix. So instead of actually fixing it, treating them with just a little bit of decency and dignity, you set them up as coat racks because they're mean? Listen, I don't like these two characters. I say as much basically every episode. Heck, Monty's actor, Caleb Bendit, posted on Twitter recently expressing sarcastic shock that people don't like his character. But they're human. We should not see the Power Rangers and their allies treating human beings like a monster would. And the worst part was that they were amused by it. And this show tries to paint Victor and Monty as the bullies. I laughed, yes, but it was more from utter shock that this was something that was written, approved, directed, filmed, and aired without anyone saying anything. I would really like to hope that at the very least Peter Sudarso said something. This episode depressed me. And I'm not just saying that, not just being outrageous or saying something hysterical. It really did. During my note-taking watch, I would repeatedly pause this episode just to put my head in my hands. I've said before on a number of occasions that I know the current writing staff and production staff are capable of better than we've been getting. With this episode, I know that anyone is capable of better than this. If this is the kind of stuff we're in for, give me Jonathan Zacher. Give me Bruce Kalish. Give me anybody. I know the people that are running the show are trying their best. And actually now, thanks to a manual copyright claim on one of my reviews, I know that at least someone from Saban Brands is watching these videos, so this is something that I want to take the time to say. It's not like I'm bashing these people for fun or to get views. I know that they care and are passionate about Power Rangers and are trying to put out the best product that they can. But this is not acceptable. We need better than this. Kids today deserve better than this. No. No. No, I will not stop watching. Explain to me the logic of dropping a franchise that you love because you want it to be better. Do you realize that if Star Wars fans did that during the prequel trilogy, they never would have seen The Force Awakens? What's better, giving up on a fandom that you love because it's currently bad, or urging the people in charge of producing that content to make it better? I'd like to think my way is at least more optimistic. I really wish I could carry that optimism over to the next episode, but the best I can give you is we'll see what happens. Preston's back in the driver's seat this time for the 18th episode of Ninja Steel, Abracadanger. Preston must confront one of Galvanax's newest contestants after his magical spells backfire on his teammates. That's going to wrap up a rather loud and throat-stressing Power Rangers Ninja Steel episode review. Thank you folks so much as always for watching and listening, I suppose. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of this episode. Maybe you thought it was better than I did, or even worse, possibly, as well as my review of it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to see all of my videos, and ring that bell, get your notifications set up, so you can be notified of whenever I post brand new videos just like this episode review. And if you would like to toss even a little financial support to my channel, you can head to digitaltipjar.com/OrangeRangerVid. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. This episode was really bad. The ways in which I think Power Rangers can improve. Besides well, there goes the streak. Victor, who Mary hilariously told to shut up earlier in the episode, is getting in. Back at the fight, the monster survives this, but only until she and Brody team up once again for a finishing move. His blow up. I mean, did whoever filmed this was just gonna and just set them up in an undignified manner for laughs. I said this back when Power Rangers did this episode the first time. It was during Super Megaforce, and it was called a perfect In a world here where we get lots of witty fight banter and puns, it's refreshing. The Redbot story was simple, boring, meaningless, boring, eye-rollingly cheesy, boring, I knew that was gonna happen. Why was a book launch press conference held at a high school? Oh, I don't know. And I mean, the Victor and Monty... You realize if Star Wars fans did that during the prequel trilogy, they never would have seen The Force Awakens? That is going to wrap up a rather loud and throat-stressing Power Rangers Ninja Steel episode review. Thank you, really?